we have 1 hour on a session dedicated to EndNote. The goal is to show you a few tips on how you can save time by managing your references with EndNote. Right? So you should have access to a chat where you can ask some questions, or you can post your comments, and I'll leave some time towards the end of the session to go through your questions. Okay, let's start. I just have a few slides to go through to explain about what is EndNote, what it does, and how it can help you. So several goals with EndNote, several tasks you can accomplish with EndNote. Obviously, EndNote will be able to help you to collect your references, managing them, sharing them with your colleagues, and finally formatting them when you write your paper. Okay. Sourcing, getting all the references, organizing them, formatting them correctly is quite time consuming, but it is also crucial when you want to publish your research. We've seen that in the past 10 years, the number of citations is on the rise. So that's the number of citations that are indexed in the Web of Science core collection in 2019 only. 90 million of citations indexed in the platform. 47 is the average number of citations used per paper in 2019. And this number increased by 33% when we look compared to 2010. All right, so obviously people cite more. So when you look at the average number of references in a paper, these days around 47, and it used to be 33% less 10 years ago. What can you do with EndNote? So you can save time for your research content. So I've seen personally lots of people still writing references manually when they write their paper. They shouldn't do that because now you have tools that can help you collect those references and formatting them automatically. So that's what I'm saying here. It's not necessary to spend hundreds of hours. I mean, we've seen people like spending days, weeks, and even nights actually working and manually collecting the references, writing them manually in their papers. Again, here you can achieve same results and actually better results, better quality by using EndNote. A few things. Collect is obviously the first step. You need to collect your references, and you can save actually large libraries, large numbers of references to take with you anywhere as far as you have internet connection. So I'll give you some precisions because there are two versions of EndNote. There is an EndNote Online, which is basically a website, and for that you need internet connection. All right, that's a website which is free, but I'll focus today on EndNote Desktop, which is the software that you have. You should check with your librarian. You should have access to EndNote Desktop, which is a software, and you can use EndNote Desktop without the internet connection. Obviously, some functionalities or features won't be available without internet connection, but here I'll speak about both versions. You can add citations and complete your bibliography when you write your paper, which is quite easy. Okay, and you have access to hundreds, actually thousands of styles that can be used when you write a paper, and that can be automatically converted when you want to submit your paper to a journal or to a publisher. The publisher would mention, okay, we require style ABC, then you would just browse the style and convert and format automatically the references. So let me go directly to the platform. Before going to the platform, you have, as I mentioned, two versions of EndNote. After the session, I'll send you the recording of this today's session, as well as a certificate and some links to training materials. Something that is interesting is obviously the EndNote website, where you have access to lots of training material. On that, you have we'll talk about two versions today, but I'll focus on the desktop version today. Here the clarivate.com EndNote website, you have lots of training material. All right, so video tutorials, self-guided learning, reference guides. So I'll send you the link. We also have a LibGuide where for users and for EndNote X9. Okay, so you'd have access to lots of material. Something that I like is the YouTube channel. The YouTube channel, we do have some full courses on, okay, so what's new in X9. If I go to the playlists, we do have several videos about X9. So X9 is the version that we will use today. So in this playlist, you have what's new, how to use EndNote in 6 minutes. So obviously you can install it on Mac and Windows. Manuscript matcher. So I'll go through these functions today, and you can always refer to these websites. So I'll send you the links. Let me just close this. I don't need that anymore. Okay. So EndNote is integrated in Web of Science. We've talked about Web of Science recently. If I do a quick search, edit from battery, all right, and I want to find some papers, you would see that, for example, I want to export those references, okay, and I can export them. Let me close that. I don't need that anymore. Yeah, you can export them, right? So you can export to EndNote Desktop and EndNote Online. So very quickly, EndNote Online would be, so you remember with Web of Science, you can create an account. With the same account, you can log in and create a library in EndNote Online for free. So I'm connected with the same username and password. So if I send these two references to EndNote Online, it will send these two records, these two papers. So I can export the author, title, source, abstract to EndNote Online. So this is where I have my references. So I should get a confirmation here. So it's still sending. Once those records are sent, so got the confirmation, Web of Science will refresh the page, and now it says that this record is in your EndNote library. Okay, so there is an integration between Web of Science and EndNote. If I click here, it will go to EndNote Online now, and it will show me this record that I just exported. So I do have 4 that are unfiled, meaning I didn't put them in groups or folders. So 2 that I exported this morning, and Markov models, this is the one, and improving the performance of lithium, that's the one. Okay. I'll come back later on EndNote Online. First of all, you would need to have EndNote installed, because that's the focus of today's session, EndNote X9. So when you install EndNote, let me close this library. This is my personal library. You have EndNote installed. So this is EndNote X9. First thing to do is, obviously, you need to create a library. Think of it as the library in your university. I recommend you create only one library. It's like one building or one big room where you put all your books or all the papers that you read. So here I would say new. Okay, I create a new library. Let's say I save it in my desktop, or actually I'll save it in downloads. All right, and I call it my EndNote library. Something that I want to show here is that when you create a library, all right, you give it a name. Let's call it my EndNote library. This is fine. What it does, it's obviously it's like it creates the room, right? It creates your library building or your library room. If I go to downloads, you would notice that I have the EndNote library file .enl. That's the extension for EndNote library, but it also comes with the data folder. The data folder, this is where EndNote is saving the data. You don't put the data yourself there. You just manipulate the file, right? That's what you're gonna manipulate, the library. But EndNote will save the data in this folder. That's what these two files are part of your library, so they need to stay together. If I just save this one, I would need to take this into account as well. I mean, I need to save, they need to stick together. They need to be in the same folder, the same root. So once you understand that, so this is my library. First thing is, I mean, we could do the same again. Web of Science, I want to export these two, but not to export to EndNote Online, but to EndNote Desktop. So what it does, it's, again, these two results, and I want to export them. So what Web of Science is doing, it generates a file, CIW, I just click on it, and now I get the references. All right? So these are my two references. And that's actually what I need, or what I will need when I will cite those papers. Okay, I have the author's names, publication year, the title, the name of the journal, volume number, issue number, the page numbers, the ISSN. I have basically everything, right? I can do another search just to show you. For example, I can do, let's say, you remember I've done a search on coronavirus or COVID-19. That's what I've done in the past. I could say, I want to select the whole page and I want to export to EndNote Desktop, right? So all records on page, and I can decide again, I like to export basically everything, all record and cited references. So again, what it does, it's generating a file. You need to open the file, and then now I have 12 references, 10 plus 2, okay? So that's how you can collect the references. Obviously, some papers might not be in the indexed in the Web of Science. That you understand, because not all papers are published in index journals. We could have a look at Google Scholar. You would notice that there is also it's a coronavirus and mathematics. Some obviously papers being available in Google Scholar, and you have the site. They don't call it export, they call it site. And if I click on site here, so they give you the references already here, but what I like is to have all the data so that I can export with whatever the style I want. So here you see there is an EndNote file that will save this paper with this format. So it's going to generate an EndNote file. I could use BibTeX, RefMan, RefWorks. EndNote reads all these files anyway. So I could say EndNote. All right. So it generates this reference with an EndNote extension. All right. So exactly again, I have all the data from this paper. The point here is that I could go to PubMed if I want. The point here is that all the platforms have an export function. They just call it differently. We call it export to EndNote. Google Scholar, they call it cite. PubMed, I think they call it send to. For example, here I could select these two and say send to, right? Send to file, or I could do that. Citation, right? Citation, and again they give me some references, and NBib, for example, EndNote reads those files as well. So I could say NBib, I want this paper in NBib extension, and then that's it. I've got the. There is a question already in the chat. Can I export group references from Google Scholar? Yes, you can. The way you would do that, I think if I do this again, any search, So I'm connected here. So what you could do is if I go my library. Yeah, so here you see I have 3 papers in my library. I can select all of them. This is from Google Scholar. Okay. And then I can say export EndNote. Yeah, so here I exported from Google Scholar my library and I just open this citation, so I would get those three papers. All right, so yeah, so you can export groups. You just get them to your library in Google Scholar and then export them. All right. So as you can see here, you can export in different formats, but EndNote can read all these formats anyway. All right, so that was the first step. You get EndNote installed, you create a library, and then you collect references. Okay. One recommendation is to keep things organized. So as you can see here, I collected 17 papers quite quickly, but about different topics. All right. So there was lithium battery, there was COVID-19, and there was Ebola. Right. So here you could say, in EndNote, if you don't remember which paper is talking about what, you could say any field talking about lithium. And I retrieve my 2 papers, and here I would say create a group, and I will call it lithium. Something similar to what you would do in your mailbox, right? You want to keep things organized. Okay. And I had papers talking about Ebola, I think. Yeah, so one of them, create a group, Ebola, and the other one was obviously coronavirus. Okay, I had much more. Okay, so I would say I can do it this way. Instead of creating the group first and moving, I can say add references to create custom group. Okay, and I will call it just need to rename it, Corona. Okay. So there was all references. Yeah, this one needs to go into. So you got the point, right? So one advice that I give is you create a group per paper or per project that you're writing. So all the references that you read about a specific topic or specific project, you keep them in different groups. Yeah. So we created a library, we collected references, we rated and we put them into groups. There is an interesting functionality. I went to all references. That is available in EndNote Desktop, which is not available in EndNote Online. So I can select all of them and I say right-click, find full text. Until now, I didn't, so I just talk about that later on. So one second, I just need to remove some settings because I also search in my university library. So just 1 second. I'll just save this because I need that. Yeah, I just need, so basically what I'm doing here is that, I'll explain that. When you click on a reference and you say, I want to find the full text. So let me try again. So I select all of them, Control A, all right, and say find full text. Okay, so now it's gonna try to find the full text for all these papers. So it's searching, and if it finds the full text, it will attach the full text automatically to the reference. So it finds one, as you can see here, the second one, all right, okay, third one. So it found the PDF for 3 of them. So if I open this one, so that is just retrieved. As you can see, the full text has been added to the reference. Okay, so I have the title, the full text, and everything. So that's how EndNote does it. It will tell you we found the PDF and then it attached the PDF. Otherwise, it will tell you we found the URL. So for this paper about, I think it was battery, it didn't find the PDF, but it found the URL. So that's the website where, so that's from Science Direct. And obviously, if you have access to Science Direct, you could download the paper from there and then attach it to the reference. How you do that, you say attachment, file, attachment, attach file. So you can attach any file, basically, not only the full text. You can attach some notes that you wrote about the paper. You can attach an Excel file, a PowerPoint, anything, right? So you can attach multiple files. So here, out of 17, it found 12 PDFs. 4, it found only the URL, and for one of them, it didn't find anything. Okay, so that's one way of getting quickly the full text. In my settings, and I will put them back, so something that you could do as well with your institution is that you can tell EndNote, I do have access to my university library, and that's the proxy to my university in the Netherlands, Leiden University. And I tell EndNote, when you search for full text, not only with the Web of Science, UI, PubMed, in these places as well, in the catalog of my university, and there is an authenticate proxy URL where I need to give my username and password. Okay, so if I say apply, if I say okay, and then if I search again for those that maybe we didn't find the reference, let me try. And I say find full text. Okay, so it's going to search again, and now it's telling me you need to access the library. And I say okay, fine, log in. All right, and I should be able to connect. Hope my password is correct. Another way of doing it is, you remember when we talked about Web of Science? I've shown you one extension, browser extension, which is called Copernio. And for this paper, it found the PDF, you see? So that is available in like Science Direct, it will be activated. Web of Science, PubMed, we've seen it before. If I go to Central, let me show you quickly. Remember, I went to PubMed Central, or any database actually. Copernio would try to find the full text. If it finds the full text, so now it's searching, you see, view PDF. Something I can do very quickly with Copernio is that I can export directly the full text. So it's still loading the PDF. I can export this to EndNote. Yeah, export to EndNote. So just pay attention here because it's quite quick. It will do two things. It will download the PDF and download the citation with an RIS file, which says here that is compatible with EndNote, Mendeley, and Zotero. And then I just need, so I downloaded the PDF, and now I just click on the RIS file. And now what it will do, it will get the reference with the full text. Okay. And something that I personally do is that in my downloads, I have a Copernio folder. Copernio folder, this is where all my PDFs are saved. Okay, this is where I save all my PDFs. Just to keep things organized again, what I do is I go to, if I don't get the reference, because I still have to click on the reference that has been exported. So here, what I tell EndNote, I tell EndNote to do something, which is in my preferences, I have a PDF handling, and you can enable the automatic importing. This is my Copernio folder. Each time I put a PDF there, EndNote will try to import the PDF and would rename it with author, year, title. So as you can see, most of them author, title, year, except those like UNESCO Science Report. But most of them would have author name, the year, and the title. Okay. All right. So we talked about giving references. We talked about finding the full text. So directly from EndNote, like whatever is open, or from your library. Okay. I talked about the PDF handling. Something that I obviously want to speak about is the formatting of the references. So when you install EndNote, you should have an additional menu in Word. So EndNote X9. So I'm talking about the software version here. Okay. And this is obviously installed in your machine. So the purpose of this is to help you format your references when you when you write. So let's say I write my paper and I want to cite someone. Go into this menu and say insert citation. Say insert citation, and here I would call it Ebola, or let's say we had something about battery. Okay, so improving the performance of lithium batteries and so on, and I just click insert. Right? So EndNote would bring the reference. So as you can see, it has a gray background. So this will be my references section. All right. So I keep writing, and I want to cite another author that talks maybe now about something else. Let's say coronavirus. Okay, and I want to cite this author. Okay, and I say insert. So it keeps building my references. Last time I was using EndNote, I was using APA65, but obviously you can change that. You can change that with, let's say, Vancouver, that would be numbers. Okay, I can change that to whatever you want. I can go select another style, and you will see I have like hundreds here, but you can get much more, actually thousands of styles. So yeah, I could change that back to numbered. That would be slightly different, or back to APA65. Let me keep it this way. Something interesting you could do is, if I copy this part, obviously it removes the reference. If I put it back, the numbers update automatically, as you can see. So 1, if I put it after 2, so 2 would become 1. Obviously, I'll have only one reference. If I put it here, then it gives the right number in the correct. Okay. Some people tell us or ask us, yeah, how can I cite an author saying, for example, I could say Munajimi, and I say insert, but display as author and year. So I could say Munajimi mentioned in his paper and so on. I could do that this way, right? Yeah, so that's how you can automatically format the references. You just go to the references list and you say, okay, now my manuscript is ready, and I want to submit to a journal, and the journal, they require Harvard style, and that will format automatically references. Okay. The point here is that this data is coming from the library. I didn't have to write this manually. The only thing I wrote is my text, and this is a link to the citation. Once you have done this, something that you could do as well is at the end you could convert your documents, you convert to plain text, and it requires to have a working document, so a working version of your paper. All right, so I would have two let's say, in my desktop. Okay, so I would have two documents. One which is plain text, as you can see, this is plain text. So the links, this is the text as written in the paper, and I have my other version which still contains the links to the library. Okay. Someone is asking, does it have APA 7 style? Is there? So I can change that. APA 7 style, and it would format with the right style. If you don't find the style, you go to endnote.com and you would have downloads. In the download section, you would have all the available styles. So output styles, more than 6,000 from APA to CGOT. So if I go here, it's basically just a file that you need to install. You can search, let's say, APA, all the styles that contain APA. So 42 styles contain APA. Download it. So it's quite recent. Okay. You can search by publisher. All right. If still you don't find your style, you can always contact us and you submit a request to create a new style. We've done that for many journals or for many others. Okay. Yeah, so few things that I wanted to mention. I just closed this library because that's not what I'm working on. So I'll just open my library. Yeah, a functionality that you maybe is interesting. So here you can create new styles. That might be interesting when a publisher or you want to create a new style. All right. You would say open style manager. The publisher could tell you, okay, we're using a slightly modified version of the Vancouver style. It's not exactly the Vancouver style, slightly different. So I could go into Vancouver and I want to say edit. Okay. So I have the requirements, who created them, who's the publisher, and so on. I have all the details, all the details of the style. Something that we see when people don't write in English. In this style, for example, you don't want and, you would have the equivalent, let's say in Arabic. You could do that. You could choose the in the bibliography, sorry. If there are more than 100 authors, how do you want to separate them? If there are more than 7 authors, you list the 6 first authors, and then the rest you put them as AL, for example. All right, so you can customize this. Author name, something that I wanted to show is journal names. Which abbreviation do you want to use, or do you want to use the full journal name? So depending on the style, right? So you can customize all of these, and if I click close, do you want to save? I would say yes, and then I would give it another name. Let's say, for example, Vancouver copy. All right, or let's say Vancouver journal. If I made any changes, all right. So I just don't want to save this. And then you would have a new style. Okay. So that is also available in EndNote Desktop. Synchronization. One common question we get is, I have EndNote Desktop installed in my PC. I also want to synchronize with my EndNote Online library. So as you can see here, 386 references. So I got more papers today, but obviously I didn't add them in EndNote Online and EndNote Desktop. I've done it only once. So whatever I do in EndNote Desktop will be reflected in EndNote Online. Whatever I do in EndNote Online will be synchronized and reflected in EndNote Desktop if I choose to do so. Some people use only EndNote Desktop and they're fine with that. Some people use EndNote Online and they're also fine with this. Some people want to synchronize. I want to synchronize because EndNote Online gives me a website that I can open from anywhere. compared to EndNote Desktop, where it would be installed in a few machines only. So you need to activate that. Again, edit preferences, and then sync. And you want to enable the synchronization or not. If you enable the synchronization, EndNote Desktop needs your username and password to know which EndNote Online account you're using. And the point here is that you can synchronize only one library. Coming back to my first point where I recommended to have only one library. It's like in a university, you have one major library, and in that library, you would have all the papers or the books that you have access to. So same here, this is my personal library, and I sync automatically. So it would synchronize. If I close and it's not synchronized yet, it would tell me you've made some changes that have not been synchronized yet. Do you want to synchronize them now or until next time you open EndNote Desktop? Otherwise, I can push for the synchronization. I can simply push for the synchronization, retrieving account, and now it's synchronizing. One more functionality, which is, so if you go tools here, something called, so site while you write, if you don't have it installed, that's where you would find it. Okay. So you'd have the site while you write plugin if it's not available, or otherwise you could go into downloads in EndNote Online and you can install the site while you write, the Windows and the Mac version. Okay. We have something called, so you have manuscript templates. That's useful. Some people, they ask us, okay, do you have any template that's for journals? So you would have all the templates per journal. That's quite interesting. So you already write with the format of the journal that you might target. That's something I wanted to mention. And there is also in EndNote Online a match functionality. The match functionality based on the title of your manuscript and the abstract of your manuscript. So now I'm just, okay, let's just all imagine that this is my manuscript, right? So this paper has already been published and it's indexed. So now if I click find journal, so I can specify references to make it more specific, but this is optional. But we need a title and abstract, and EndNote Online would go into the Web of Science to find journals that could match your manuscript based on the keywords that you use in your title and abstract. And if I say find journals, you retrieve some interesting data. So obviously the first interesting data is the list of these indexed journals, okay, that are indexed in the Web of Science. You remember the impact factor? That's the second information. You have the categories of these journal, the rank of this journal, and the quartile of this journal. And it seems this journal is open access. And last information, which is quite interesting, so you get this data, is the submission page. So now you just have a disclaimer saying that you're leaving EndNote Online, so no more relation with EndNote. You go to the journal publisher website, okay? And in there, that's the official page of the journal where you would need to create an account or log in with your ORCID to submit your paper, okay? Yeah, so from here you could, if I write a paper, let me close this one. If I'm still writing, blah, blah, okay, and then if I go to EndNote, insert citation, so it's going to insert the citation where my cursor is. So yeah, I mean, those buttons are quite helpful as well. One more point that, one thing that we've done is that we went to the bibliographic database, Web of Science, PubMed, Google Scholar, and we exported from the database. One thing that you can also do is, so you can search, you have the online search mode, and you have the integrated, which is your library and the online search. Let me explain the difference. So the online search here is that I can search in Web of Science core collection, or I can search in PubMed. So it's connecting to PubMed, and I want to search for all the papers that contain the keyword Ebola. So it's searching and it found 9,270 records. Let's just retrieve the first 100 to be quick. Okay, so now I'm searching in PubMed all the papers that contain Ebola. So I got 20 by 20, now 40, 60, 80, all the way up to 100. Okay, and now I can decide I want to copy this reference, or I want to add this reference to. I'll create a new group then, create custom group, and I will call it. If I go to integrated and library online search mode, so online search mode is only valid for the time of the search. If I went back to the online search mode, my search on Ebola in PubMed is gone. So I prefer to use the integrated here, integrated and online search mode. And here I have my groups where I have my Ebola paper. I will just rename it. Let's say Ebola. Okay. So here I can connect again PubMed, and if I search, I can search in PubMed because I know I have access to PubMed. Let's say now it's top 10 just to be quick. Right. So here I can select all of these or all of them, Control A, and I just drag them and drop them into Ebola. So that's one way. You have more connection files. So Amina yesterday was talking about OCLC if you have access to library catalogs. So if I go to here, you would see Anthropology Plus, Article First, Papers First, etc. All right. You can always search for, let's say, PubMed. If I want to search for PubMed, search this way. Yeah, so you'd have the information provider, EBSCO, Clarivate Analytics. This would be the different collections you can connect to. So again here, if I show something, so you have different catalogs. I have 429 connection files, so I don't have all of them. If you don't find the one you're looking for, again, you would go into endnote.com and you would go into downloads, and here you have the connection files. So here, connection files for online databases. Just install the connection file for the database you want to search. Then you can use EndNote to connect. So how does it work? We have lots. I didn't install all of them because I'm using mainly Web of Science or Google Scholar or Pernio to get the full text directly from my library. And as you can see, I have only 429 connection files that are installed by default, but we have more than 4,000. So if I say OCLC, I get 24 connection files. So you need to download them and install them. All right. So I think maybe this one, electronic collection online. If it's still not there, we can always create a connection file for you and make it available to everyone here in Okay, let me see. Yeah, one classic question that I also get is about the LaTeX. So the plugin that we have is not available in. Let me just do it this way. Yeah, so the export to LaTeX. The plugin is available in Word and Mac. We don't have a plugin for LaTeX, but you can always export references. Sorry. For those of you who use LaTeX, so export references. So I have, let's say, my references that are in my and collaboration group, and I want to export to LaTeX or BibTeX export, and then I would have the references with the required format. So I try to go through the classic questions that people usually ask. I'll go into the chat now and yeah, let me see if I yeah, let me see. Well, there are lots of functionalities. As you can see here, some of the papers I gave them like 5 stars because these are the papers that are quite relevant. I mean, you could do that as well. You can create your own group if you want. You see my paper. In my paper, I see my manuscript here, and I see the 2 references that I already have in my paper. Yeah. Yeah, in the groups here, manuscript matcher, the functionality is already also available here. All right. And then it goes into the functionality. And if I didn't have a title and abstract, so, and I can find journals with the 2 citations that I added in EndNote and desktop. So let me go through the questions now. Okay, there is a question which says, I have already downloaded a lot of journal papers before in my PC. How can I put them in the EndNote library? So yeah, the way you could do that, you create a folder. That's what I've done here. Copernio. I mean, you call it whatever you want. You open EndNote, and then you're going to EndNote edit. Sorry, you're going to edit preferences, and then PDF handling. You specify the folder where you put all the papers. And I mean, you could check enable automatic importing. All right. And then EndNote will go and try to read the papers and find the reference. There's no guarantee it doesn't always work, simply because, you know, some PDFs are simply images or scanned papers, right? The way it works is that this PDF has the right format, so this one would work simply because it has everything in place: title, author names, affiliations. I believe it would have a DOI. Yeah. So based on the DOI, that would be enough to retrieve all the information of the reference. So I'm saying it works most of the time with the papers that have been written correctly and that have the correct information in the right place in the PDF. Okay. There's one more question. Yeah, so I already replied to Anne's question where she asked, does it have the APA 7th edition? Yeah, it is available. I've shown that before. Can we divide the library into subfolders for easy access? I'm not sure I got the question correctly. So what I have here is that I do have some papers. I mean, those groups are groups that I created during training sessions. But my groups here, I can have groups, okay, where I put all papers relevant to each and every topic, okay? So can we divide the library into subfolders for easy access? Yeah, that's what you would do. All right. So here, this is a group set, and in a group set, you have several groups. Okay, there is a question from Marwan who's asking, can we extract the bibliography and reference from a Word document to EndNote? Yeah, so you can do that directly from Word. So here I'm with this document, and the question is, can I extract those references and send them to EndNote? So obviously I already have those references, right? So I can just simply delete them to show you how it works. So here in Word, in the EndNote X line menu in Word, you have the export to EndNote function and then export traveling library. Okay, so that will create a library with these 3 references. If I click on it, so I have 2 options. Either I export to an existing EndNote library or a new EndNote library. So for now, I just send them to my personal library. Okay, if I click OK, export is complete. If I go to EndNote, then I have my 3 references that I just imported. All right. This is only available via EndNote 9. Amina, could you clarify what do you mean by this? Your question is, this is only available via EndNote 9, and that was 10 minutes ago. So if you could just refresh my memory about what I was talking about, or what do you mean by this is only available via EndNote 9? Question from, and it is a very sophisticated system. Would you advise using EndNote with beginning students? Is there a video that one could show students to just give them the basic to get them started? Yeah, I mean, anyone could use EndNote Desktop. It's not that sophisticated. The point here is you create a library, you get references, you export them, and you format them with the right style in your document, in your manuscript. These are the main steps, and then you have few tips here and there on matching your manuscript to a journal, handling the PDFs, synchronizing with your EndNote online library, and so on. The video that I recommend to get started, again, is go to, YouTube EndNote training playlist. I'll send you this link actually for interested. If you go EndNote X9, and EndNote X9, there is a 6-minute video on how to use EndNote, and that would be actually a very good start. How to use EndNote in 6 minutes on Mac or in 6 minutes in Windows. So 6 minutes you should be able to use EndNote, and then you have a short course of short class on like 22 minutes. Functionalities, manuscript matcher, library sharing, and compare. Yeah, I knew I missed something. In EndNote Desktop, you can share your library. In EndNote Online as well, I mean, you can share groups. But here in EndNote Desktop, okay, I can add colleagues. You go to share library, and here I shared my library with 2 people already, and I could say another person at colleague.com, read and write, or I can give read only on writes if I want, and I would say hi, this is an access to my library. So quite useful when you work with colleagues. Okay, so I could do that, and I invite. All right. You can share a specific group. So you don't have to share the whole library. So with the 2 previous people, I share the whole library. Here I can share a specific group if I want, because I can work with different people based on each and every project. So I can share this group with specific people. Yeah, I mean, I think that was when you were showing the connectors, I think. So your question would be, this is only available via EndNote 9. That was available via EndNote X6, X7, X8, X9. Didn't use the previous version, so I can't tell, but I would say yes. But yeah, you can connect with EndNote X9 with different connectors, and that's also available to a certain extent in EndNote Online. So let me show you. In EndNote Online as well, I mean, you can collect, you can do an online search, and here by default, I think I have a few databases that I can, so PubMed, okay, I can connect here. All right, so we do have a few, but that is more limited in EndNote Online. Okay, there is an interesting question from Amina, who's asking, can you highlight the main differences, maybe the web version of EndNote and EndNote 9? There are plenty. Let me start with EndNote Desktop. EndNote Desktop is a software, and it is much more powerful, as you could see maybe when I was exporting and importing the references. It's just like very, very quick. That's the first thing. The EndNote X9, the EndNote Desktop, has much more functionality. It is a software much more powerful. For example, the find full text. Remember, let's say if I want to search for this full text, okay, you don't have that in EndNote Online. So that comes quite handy if I do this, right? Several references, find full text. You don't have that functionality in EndNote Online. You don't have the PDF handling. Someone was asking, I have lots of PDFs already, I saved them. How can I import them automatically? In EndNote Online, you would have to find a reference, import the reference, go to the reference, and attach the full text to the reference. Here, the PDF handling is can be automatic if you want it to be. Creating a new style, that is quite useful when you want to have a specific style, especially when you write in a different language, and in the style you don't want to see English like words like and so on. Creating a style, as I mentioned, connecting to your library in finding full text. Sorry, here you don't have it in EndNote Online. Sharing, you have it in EndNote Online and EndNote Desktop. That is common. Creating smart groups and custom groups, I didn't talk about that. Here I could create a smart group. A smart group would be a group of groups, but it's not like a physical group. Let me show you one example. Let's say I want to create a smart group. That's becoming more sophisticated. So I would call it new smart group, and I want to retrieve all the papers that match my query within my library. All right, so that would be a search within my library, but that is dynamic. So I say the author names contains Waltman, and the year, all right, so it's just like a query, contains 2017. Okay. So it's basically all the Waltman papers published in 2017. I didn't add these references, it's just that this is my search. So you could create a smart group, which is a group of papers of all my references in this library. So there are quite few differences. I do have a comparator if you want me to send it to you. There is a question from Khaled who says, once the EndNote and online version synchronize, all the downloaded PDFs are available in both. Yeah, a very good question. Exactly. Let me show you my references here. You would see if I go my references. All right. So I didn't do the work twice, right? You see here those that have the attachments. I didn't do it twice. So let me, like for example, this one, moving people and knowledge, scientific mobility. All right. So that's a paper and the PDF is there. All right. Occurs 2005. So if I go all references, occurs Louise 2005, moving people and knowledge. It's in both locations. Yeah, so it's there. So as I mentioned, you'll receive the recording as soon as it's available, as well as the presentation, the links to all the materials, training materials that I mentioned, and you'll have my contact details if you face any issue or you need any support, you let me know. There is also one good place to get support is obviously here, EndNote.com support. If it's technical, if it's how to use, you would get quite quick support here. Email or you can submit an inquiry about EndNote. If there is no more question, then I will end the session, and thank you very much. All the best and take care.